Hello, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the RDA. I hope you are doing well. It was a scintillating performance from Manchester United, an exuberant start from both teams, springing the step, very open game, more open than a lot of us probably would have expected against a Spanish side. I think Real Sociedad were a little bit naive to play football against Manchester United. You don't do that if you want to win against Manchester United. No. You don't play real football. You sit back and you park the bus, because when you park the bus against Manchester United, all they do is pass sideways. But when you play football, all of a sudden they're a good team. All of a sudden we're prime. We're prime Manchester United with prime Sir Alex Ferguson at the helm. 3-0, actually 4-0. Get in the bin, Real Sociedad. Go back to Spain. Go back to the drawing board and try again, fam. Try again. Our kids terrorized you, fam. You know them, wait there. Dan James, Masterclass, fam. You know them. Like, I actually got to give a proper apology. Dan James is not the concussed Sonic the Hedgehog. He might be for the rest of the season. But in this moment, right here, right now, Dan James is a magnificent player for what he did yesterday. And I have the utmost respect, because he hasn't really been on the end of, let's just say, the most positive time at Manchester United. The fan base certainly hasn't treated him particularly well. He's gotten a lot of unwarranted stick. And on top of all of that, he's pretty much been ostracized from the squad, and he's been, well, I wouldn't say ostracized. That's a bit much. That's a bit dramatic. We only use those words with Jose Mourinho. He wasn't ostracized from the squad, but he was definitely removed from the playing squad and really just kind of put on the bench. And because of the dire circumstances with our injury, the fact that Van der Beek was carrying a knock, Martial was carrying a knock, there were concerns about McTominay, even though he actually did start. Paul Pogba out, Cavani out. Someone like Dan James had to play, and boy, did he step up. Because when I saw that team sheet and I saw Greenwood and Dan James in the same front three with Rashford either playing in the middle or off the right, I was like, oh my God, oh Congo, we are in trouble. We are in trouble, chief. We are in trouble, comrades. We are in trouble. But they rescued us. And yeah, it was a beautiful performance. Bruno Fernandes, masterclass again. But if you want to hear someone suck off Bruno Fernandes, go watch the podcast, because that's what Shawnee's here for, you know. Shawnee probably lives so far up Bruno Fernandes' ass, he can see what Bruno had for breakfast every single morning, lunch and supper. You know, that's probably just facts, you know. But with me, I'm going to keep it real in it. You know, Bruno Fernandes was magnificent yesterday. But when I look at Bruno Fernandes and the way people treat him, and then I look at the way people treat Rashford in this fan base, I just think double standards. Because here's the thing. If Rashford frustrates you, fine. He frustrates me as well. But if somebody frustrates you because you genuinely want them to do well, and you genuinely think they have potential, wouldn't you cheer them on, and even though you're frustrated and you're yelling at your TV, want them to do well, rather than say things like, he has no footballing IQ, do not ever compare him to Mbappe ever again, he is Trashford, he is this, he is that. Saying somebody is Trashford, or saying somebody doesn't have any footballing IQ, or saying somebody, you know, just doesn't use their brain and is always looking down when they get into the final third, is actually massively disrespectful, because those are things people say about Dan James, because with Dan James it's true. But when you look at a player who is the second most goals and assists in the team, not just this season but last season as well, I don't get it, fam. I really don't get it. And I think some of the abuse that Rashford gets is really unwarranted, because I think it's criticism when it's constructive, it's abuse when it's non-constructive and it's just negative and toxic. Do you understand that if Marcus Rashford was more clinical, he'd be the best left winger in the world? People saying Marcus Rashford needs to be more clinical is like me saying Bruno Fernandes needs to stop losing the ball. No shit, Sherlock. Oh my God, I've discovered the secret. If Marcus Rashford just was more clinical, he'd be the best footballer in the world. No shit, Sherlock. But that's a false barometer to measure any player. And I understand it. He's got a lot of potential. But that shouldn't frustrate you to the point where you're calling him things like Trashford and he has no footballing IQ. In fact, it should make you more excited to see him. It should make you happy when he scores. It should make you happy when he gets an assist. It should make you say, oh my God, Marcus Rashford. But no, people won't do that. They'll slag Rashford off, and then he scores and they'll be like, oh, he scored. Get him off. Bring Martial on. And it's like, bruh. But if Bruno does it, all of a sudden, let's throw a party. Let's start a bloody religion and name it, you know, I don't know, the Brunothology, fam, and make Bruno the central figure. Anyways, I digress. I love all of these players. Bruno, Martial, Pogba, Rashford. You know, I don't see this weird energy in the fan base of turning players against each other, you know. Here's an idea. Maybe they should all play together in the same team, and maybe we should like all of them because they wear the same color shirt. I don't know. Moving on, I think McFred, yesterday, I think McTominay getting forward is always a better player. I think McTominay actually worked yesterday. I think McFred actually worked yesterday. And whether or not that was because of Eric Bailly, we'll get onto that in a minute. I realize that this video is getting a little bit longer than I usually like on the channel. So I'm going to try be a bit more constructive and stay on topic this time. I think Fred played okay yesterday. I think McTominay had a very good game. And no disrespect to Fred, but I just didn't pay too much attention to him yesterday. I think in terms of winning the ball back and getting interceptions and working really hard in the midfield, that you're always going to get that with Fred. I've always praised him for that. You're always going to get tenacity and you're always going to get interceptions in key parts of the field. But whether or not that translates into him still being a good DM, I'm not really sure. And I don't know if now's the time to have that conversation. I was surprised to not see Matic start yesterday. But hey, we won 4-0, so who cares really? Who cares? Like, who cares? I'm just concerned about where this team is going forward, because who are we going to play in the next game? Are McFred going to play again on Sunday? Are McFred going to play again on Sunday? That's like, what, 8 games now? Like 8 of the 9 lost games, I've pretty much seen McFred on the team sheet consistently, bar maybe 1 or 2. That's very, very worrying, especially considering that McTominay was carrying a knock going into that game and he wasn't actually supposed to start, or there was a general consensus that he might not start and that Matic would start. But, you know, it is what it is. I hope he stays fit. I hope he's able to soldier through it. Looking at someone like Eric Bailly coming back into the team. Now, I just want to say this on Eric Bailly. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Keep it short and sweet. I'm not denying that Eric Bailly allows us to play a high press for longer, more sustained periods of time. I'm not denying that Eric Bailly has good camaraderie with the team. I'm not denying that Eric Bailly makes Harry Maguire look like a better centre-back because he has the attributes that complement him. And I'm not denying that Eric Bailly does not have the potential to be a magnificent footballer if he can stay fit. But that's the problem. The reason why I'm bored of talking about Eric Bailly is because I think some people think he is a long-term solution to our long-term problem of a centre-back. And I think that's massively naive. Unless you know one of the fairies from one of the Disney movies who can magically make his injury record go away like poof. It's not happening. It's just not happening. And whilst I do agree that Eric Bailly should be starting as many games as possible and as frequently as possible, I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should be building a system around him, because what is the point? It's not sustainable. Are we just going to go on 6-week runs when Eric Bailly's fit and then just suddenly go back to be crap at defending when Eric Bailly's not on the team anymore? You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. And if anybody's thinking to themselves, yeah, but why not start Tuanzebe? Don't forget, Tuanzebe was out for 10 months last season. He was out for 10 months last season. So Tuanzebe hasn't been injured in a while because he hasn't played football consistently in a while. And whilst I do agree he needs a run of games himself to consistently get back into the team, how do you risk your entire season? How do you risk the FA Cup? How do you risk the Europa League? How do you risk finishing in the top 4 of the Premier League if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, on the premise that a young centre-back who hasn't played much football in the last 18 months needs a run of games? The 2 times that Tuanzebe has played, and yes, it's not his fault, we've been shocking defensively. Forget PSG and forget the Champions League games. The last 2 times Tuanzebe has played, he's been shocking. Even when he came on for 5 minutes against Everton. Shocking, bruv. You know, and it's not his fault that we lost those games. But my point is, even though he does need a run of games, now's not the time to be giving people a run of games. At the beginning of the season, maybe. Pre-season, yes. But in crunch time, in February, when we're moving into March, when we're moving into squeaky bum time, when we're moving into that time of the period where, the time of the season where you've got to have the clutch factor, you've got to have your rhythm, you've got to get into that cycle of getting into good form again. I don't think now's the time to suddenly give people runs of games and suddenly pencil people into the team. So, you know, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. You know, he really is. Because if he plays Tuanzebe and Tuanzebe has a bad game, he'll just get racial abuse again, you know? So there's also that element. Do you play this youngster who's suffering through racial abuse and all of this stuff online, who's also struggling on the field, mind you, on the premise that he will be better in the future for Maguire? I don't know, you know. Say what you want about Maguire and Lindelof, but last season they still had the 3rd most clean sheets in the country, and they played majority of our games. And even though they are awful, god awful, I think the real solution to our problem is actually signing a centre-back, you know. But I'll just leave it there. Dean Henderson, who had a solid performance, you know, I saw some people saying, oh my god, it's refreshing to have a keeper who demands his box. Shut up, get in the bin. Dean Henderson ain't starting ahead of David De Gea in the big games, and you know it. There is only one numero uno at Old Trafford, and that is David De Gea. I don't want to hear anything about this Dean Henderson talk. I do not want to hear none of this Dean Henderson propaganda. But anyways, it's been your boy Triple M, and let me know what you thought of the game in the comments down below. This is longer than I wanted it to be, but peace out.